make one thing clear. Everything in music production is a system, and getting that system right is the key to making great music. And so today I'm going to break down the exact process to make amazing music every time. And it all starts with an idea. So the first thing I did was ask several fellow musicians what they do to start the track. Usually get round to making the drums first. A genre pops into my head, and I think of what a drum loop would sound like and arrange the kick and clap into the playlist. When I first started, I just tried to get an idea down as quickly as possible, then build from there to develop my skills, I guess. But now I listen to songs and try and do something similar, or try and find a new sound or sample and use that. I tend to always start with chords, so I know what kind of melodies or riffs I can come up with around that. Drums, sample, riffs. As you can see, everyone likes using a slightly different method to get the idea down, and that's because the idea is a bit different in everyone's heads. However, there are a few things you can do to make the idea generation process as smooth as possible. The false fill out. If you find it difficult to come up with melody ideas in a vacuum outside of context, then you may find it helpful to put in a rough drum loop which you will change later. This creates a framework for you to come up with ideas inside of, making it much easier. The reference. Model your track on another track, preferably one you like. Do not copy this track identically, but when you have a source of inspiration you actually enjoy, you'll find it much easier to come up with ideas. The fusion. If you want to take this one step further, you can actually select two reference tracks that are similar in some ways but different in others. This will allow you to come up with some really creative and original ideas. So you've got your idea and you're ready to produce, but this is where most producers hit their first major problem. They quit. Getting past the idea stage is often the hardest part of music production. And this is really a problem because you might have the framework for something really special, but it never sees the light of day and no one ever gets to enjoy it. So how do we stop this from happening? The best method I've found to get past the idea stage is to then build up the highest, most layered point of your track, because then you can arrange the rest of your song not by adding more things, but by taking them away. And there are a few things you need to make sure you absolutely nail in order to get this step right. First of all, you need to make sure you have enough melodic material to work with to arrange the rest of your track. And one of the best ways to do that is to create a counter melody. What is a counter melody, you might ask? It's a secondary melody, usually simpler, that supports the main melody. And if you create it at roughly the same time that you come up with your main melody idea, your melody and your counter melody will work together in perfect synchronization, which is great for your listener. Arranging the track is about trying to tell a story and take your listeners on a journey, and that's why many songs are structured by introducing one element at a time. But there are problems with this. For example, it can become too formulaic and boring. The solution is simple. Find music that moves you. Find any piece of music which you think tells a really great story, and then simply copy the structure of that track. So dissect each region of that track, the intro, the verse, the build-up, the drop, and so on, and then simply match the structure of your song to the structure of the piece of music that moves you. In this way, you can tell a great story without seeming formulaic and repetitive in the least. As for the arrangement, I strongly advise you to pay some very close attention to your intro. The intro is the first impression of your track, and for that reason, it's really important that you get it right. And so here are a few options to make an epic intro that will leave a great first impression of your music. Number 1, the resonant chord. Find a juicy chord in the key of your song and build up your melodic elements around that. This will create a really nice feeling of layering that can introduce every single element in your track without feeling generic or repetitive. The melodic introduction. Choose the leads or other main melody ideas from your track and just put them right at the start with some high-pass filtering. This technique has been used in countless pop songs because it works. Finally, you could start your track with a really high-energy drum loop and build up your melodic element upon that. Now this won't work for every genre. For example, it might work quite well in deep or big room house, but then it won't work so well in less drum-oriented genres. But nonetheless, you might want to try this out to see if it works for you. The next step in the music production process is the effects. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that there will be certain effects which characterize the music in your genre. And the only real way to figure this out is just by listening to a lot of music in your preferred genre. Think of it as market research. And once you've done this, you'll have a really good idea of the effects you should use to build up a certain signature sound. As for how to recreate these effects, there are loads of music production communities online. I'll put a few of the best ones I've found on the screen. After all, music production is way more fun when you do it together with other people. Now, of course, there are other parts of the process, such as mixing and mastering, which are well beyond the scope of this video. Ultimately, everyone will end up with their own slightly different process for creating music, but I hope this has given you a rough blueprint that you can use to build up that process. Thanks so much for watching, and the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like this video next. Let's see if they're right.